So it's really developing the partnership. And this partnership is easier said than done because we all belong to different organizations, and being in partnership is never easy because somebody's under education, the other organization under health. So these partnerships, it's really up to people. It's usually when people get on, they sometimes happen and you find it really doing well. So mental health services can offer expert mental health training at schools. We used to, for example, go to special schools to provide liaison work. So we would sit with the teachers, they would discuss in an anonymous ground the students and say, I'm worried about, because we had to take permission from the parents if we went in to discuss the children. So they would discuss, I've got this problem, what should I do? And without mentioning the name of the child, would say, maybe try this out, try this behavior program, or do this reward. And sometimes they take it on board and work on it and don't bring it back. And sometimes they have tricky cases where we would say, I think this case should be referred to us. So they would then get permission from the parents and would refer the child to us. So in a way, it was a good way of using resources because it meant that they didn't have to refer every single child they were worried about. We also empower them to deal with some cases. So we can, I'm just going through some slides. So what can schools offer? They can provide programs to promote social and emotional development. And like the program actually that Ferdi had, the teachers can provide that. That's great. And providing services that intervene as well. So intervene with anxiety problems for individuals, how to cope with anxiety, and emotional problems. The research indicates that integration of wellness program within schools can provide valuable mental health care to school children. So mental health in schools includes students with diagnosable problems, therapy and behavior change, and connecting community mental health providers to schools. Now, we need to build the capacity of school staff. So what are specific issues, for example, that school can address? Bullying is one of them. Some schools are very firm with having zero tolerance to bullying. And that could be addressed in school assembly, when the children all have an assembly once a week at school, where somebody talks, one of the teachers talks about the school, and if bullying is reported, it's taken very seriously. And helping students cope with pressure of exam testing. I know some schools I work with, they have very high standards. They really don't care that much about the emotional state of the children. They're so academic, and some children go under and they have to, parents decide to take the children out of school. So I think these, looking after their well-being is very important, especially in under exam pressure. Now I really like, I know Ferdi mentioned using the Strengths and Difficulties questionnaire, and that was developed by my colleague Robert Goodman at the Maudsley. I can't emphasize more how lovely this questionnaire is. It's free, downloadable on the internet, and it's available in Arabic, in French, in English, in lots of other languages. So, because sometimes as a clinician I don't have time to go to schools to find out about the children, but actually through the questionnaires, to the teachers, and you can use it in Arabic, give it to the parent, and I usually tell the parent, bring it back next time to the clinic. And I'm quite, in Dubai, for example, where I'm working, teachers really give their time to make notes, and to make their observations. And if I put the child on medication, send a questionnaire again, they actually write back, oh, he's fantastic, he's doing so well. I've never met that teacher face to face, but I got feedback, and they know I'm communicating with them. So I put up the strength and this is the T for teacher, that's the English form, and that's the Arabic one for teachers, And then there's also one for parents, and this is the self. This is for young people to write about themselves, to fill the questionnaire themselves. And you can compare also, you can look up outcomes. So you can have, at one time point, having the questionnaire completed, and then 6 months or a year later, you look at the scoring and see whether there has been improvement. And it's quite nice for parents and the children to see, actually, I'm in progress. You know, I'm not scoring as high as I did before. So it's a nice way of getting feedback. Now, exclusion is another one, and I know my colleague Tamsin Ford, she did a lot of work regarding school exclusion. Excluded children can develop a range of mental disorders, such as depression, anxiety, as well as behaviors. And the impact of excluding a child from school on their education and progress is often long-term. Now, I dealt with children with ADHD plus conduct disorder plus opposition and defiance, so it wasn't uncommon at all to either have them excluded or expelled. They're not allowed to go to school, and then they're home for 3 to 4 months until another school is found, and it was disastrous. And I was living in an area where they have gangs, so it was a very good opportunity for that child who hasn't been in a gang yet to join a gang and learn more difficult behavior. So, I was going to go through a vignette. I'm going to skip those. Of a child who was referred to me. I remember we were a very small team, very limited resources in the clinic, and we really got so many referrals that were not appropriate. So we decided as a team to have our screening questionnaires sent first, and then accept only the ones that fitted within our clinic. Because it was unfair to get somebody who didn't have ADHD or likely to have ADHD. They had to wait on the waiting list when we had somebody else where we thought, no, it's not appropriate, but after having seen the patient. So it was a referral. At the time I was at Guy's Hospital, referred to ADHD clinic at Guy's in London, boy 10, age years, screening with SDQs, because he scored everything. He scored very high on the SDQ. So I saw him in the clinic, and the teacher then accompanying him, she said, Dr. Abd, I know he hasn't got ADHD. I ticked all boxes in the questionnaire to get him into a clinic, and because this is his last day at school. He's been permanently expelled from school. And she really wanted him to be seen by mental health services. So I liked her frankness, because she was like, telling me she falsely completed the questionnaire. And later on, I valued her decision as well, because she knew that because this was his last day at school, this was his last day of getting sort of being seen by the teachers, and that it's going to be quite detrimental for him being expelled from school and staying at home. And she felt she had to do something, and that's the best she could do. Tick all the right boxes in the questionnaire and get him to be seen by our services. She did the right thing, really. Then I had another child where it was a 15-year-old boy referred to the clinic by a teacher after he moved 3 schools. This was his 3rd school. And it was only in the 3rd school that one of the teachers told his mother, let him be seen by somebody regarding ADHD. I think he's got ADHD. So he came to see me with his mother, and I did diagnose ADHD. The mother was actually very cross, because she said, it has been such a traumatic experience to be asked by 2 schools to leave. He goes, settles in a school, and then he's asked to leave, when he actually did have an underlying condition. Now, this young person wasn't overactive and disruptive. He was daydreaming a lot in class. He did go to a private school in London, so he was not abiding by the rules. He always did forget things or forgot things to get his games kit or put the right shirt on, or didn't always wear the school uniform or the right socks, So the school they thought he was just intentionally doing it, when actually he wasn't. He was really having difficulties doing it all. So the mother actually said, I'm going to go and tell the other schools that, you know, look, he did have an underlying. She was really quite, she was, I don't know, if you have children, if you had a son or daughter and you had to leave school, which I had to, it's really quite traumatic for the parent as well, if you have to take your child out of school. Very upsetting experience, because you also make friends with the parents, and then suddenly they tell you, you've got to go. Right. There are programs available. The one I was trained on is the Incredible Years program for teachers. It's also got a parenting program by Caroline Webster Strappin in the States. We know that randomized controlled trials in primary school in England from 4 to 9 years, the old SDQ was better at 9 months, greater effect for worse children. That was the work by Tamsin Ford, who was also working at Guy's when I was there. She's now, I think, in Cambridge. And then Stephen Scott mentioned some of his work as well. So really, you know, even when we use parenting work, some of the parents, when I used to tell them, when we explained to them using praise, reward, problem solving, and parents said, yes, we know that my child gets these stickers in class. So some schools are very good at implementing stickers and rewards, and it's important to do it with the parents as well. I like, you know, to extend that to the home too. I think you have a teacher's guide for the research, which is very helpful. Psychoeducation regarding ADHD for schools. I have a handout for schools, and which I did with Professor Eric Taylor at the Maudsley, one for school and one for teachers, for parents. And we have a book, the same guide actually includes classroom management for ADHD. And that includes, for example, sitting at the front of the class. Actually, I have to tell you, from the last, I always ask patients, where do you sit in class? Do you sit next to the window, or, you know, what can you see out of the window? And usually they sit next to the window where they can look out and watch the whole world, what's going on. So this patient, I asked, you know, do you sit next to me? He said, no, I sit next to the door. I said, okay. And I was like, almost going to the next question. And then he said, but the door has a window. The door has a glass window. And I said, what can you see through it? And he said, everybody's walking up and down. So I learned to have really open-ended question and not like to find out that, can you see something through the door? School activities can help. In school assembly, you know, making announcements, or having school clubs. I think school clubs are very good as well, and help children, you know, work together. The other vignette is a 12-year-old boy referred to the clinic with motor and vocal tics. He actually had Tourette syndrome. And for this boy, he had motor tics and vocal tics. And the children in class, because he would make these noises in the middle of the class, and he's had movements as well. So I arranged to have a meeting with the teachers, all the teachers, just to explain about Tourette. And I also, because he was 12 years old, he was very sensitive to everybody making comments. I also sat him down and we rehearsed what he's going to tell other children about the motor and vocal tics. So it's almost like a learned phrase of what he's going to say. Rather, you know, so you might say something medical, I'm seeing somebody for it. Rather than, you know, giving a pre-explanation or saying it's Tourette syndrome and they go and look it up and Google it and tease him even more about the Tourette word. So he's really teased, and he's been reprimanded at school at the beginning. So really need for psychoeducation for teachers and pupils, and need to develop strategies for the young person on training what to say. Another vignette is a 15-year-old with severe OCD. He avoided going to the toilet because at home his mother cleaned him. She had a bit of OCD herself, so and it had to be with water and it had to be with safer at home. So he was actually referred to me by the pediatrician because he presented with severe constipation, abdominal distension, and would avoid going to the toilet altogether at school. So we have to discuss that too, how to be able to go to the school toilet. And another 9-year-old who has been harassed in toilet. He was actually taken to the corner by older boys in the toilet and was really very scared of going to the toilet. So we again had to discuss with the teachers of having maybe somebody go with him from his friends to the toilet initially. I had a boy with 12-year-old with social communication disorder, and he found break time very difficult because socially he was really having difficulty. So again, communicating with the school, saying maybe we should, out of 5 days at school, 3 days he can go to the library, just to save his space, so he can do something in the school library and not have this tension of what am I going to do throughout the break time. So it is important to work in partnership with the school, and the more they are aware of the condition, the more they will help as well. But if they're ignorant, they won't be able to help. So I think, I think my time is up. I have lots of vignettes. And the last one maybe, a 9-year-old girl with school refusal, severe anxiety, not wanting to go to school at all. Mom had recently diagnosed breast cancer. She was worried about leaving her mother at home, she disappears. And we had to work with the schools of, it was graduated exposure to the school situation of mom sitting outside the classroom, then sitting in the car, until mom was able to take her and leave her at school. But she had really severe anxiety, and the school were very good at working with us. A girl with severe gross motor coordination difficulties, and again having real difficulties in her swimming lesson to change clothes very quickly. And it did break my heart. When she came to the clinic, she said, I put my swimming costume the night before I go to school, and then put the school uniform. So when she goes, she's not left behind, and everybody's gone to the pool, and she's still changing her clothes. So it is important to negotiate with the school and with teachers to come up with ideas also that implementable at school, not by the clinician. Because I might suggest something, and I had one girl with OCD where we put like a sand clock in front of her to start writing, rather than counting 10 times, 8s, and then she starts writing. And then the teacher didn't like it because everybody else was looking at it in classroom. So some of the solutions you have might work at home, but they're not really good for school. So that's why I think having partnership with the teachers is really quite important. And the last thing I want to mention, I'm very proud of that in Cairo here, Iman Gaber and Wala Hosni, Iman is at the Department of Health. They do have a school program, and it's a WHA manual. It's been well developed. It's really nice to have a look at it. And these are instructions in Arabic for the teachers. And I don't know if they link that to some research or not, but that would be quite nice as well, I think, to link it to, like you did with the research. But it's a work between the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education. And this is like a care plan in Arabic. First one I see for children, like we have, and this is a clip from the newspaper, again regarding school mental health, and talking for it. And this is the group of the research team of Mohammed, Iman Gaber, and the rest of the team who are doing the school. And I know you did something for ADHD as well in different governments in Egypt.
It was the Giza government, all the administrations except one.
Yeah. So a lot of work and activity here too. And thank you for listening. Thank you.
thank you for weaving a rich tapestry of clinical experience into a really